because we've got an amazing, amazing guest with us. And honestly, he's one of my best friends in the entire world, but he's such a leader and a voice in my life. He's impacted me in amazing ways. Joel Houston is the leader of Hillsong United. He's a speaker, film producer, songwriter. I really believe he's somebody who carries this message that he's bold about what he believes, and every step he takes, it seems like he does more and more impossible things on the God journey. And I thought to kick the whole, church VOUS Basel night off, we would have Joel Houston come. And so we're gonna have a conversation, but come on, can you welcome to the stage my good friend, Joel Houston? Thank you. I got us candles, bro. You got the leather, you got it over there. This is the unity candle for our wedding. Rich, too much. Joel, first of all, let me just say a huge thank you for being here. I think it's really, really awesome that you would take time to come and be at VOUS Basel. But I thought we would just maybe kind of start for a little bit, because obviously there's a lot of people here tonight that know you, that follow you. But maybe just share a little bit, if we can just start, a little bit about your story, like how you even got here. You're selling out the Hollywood Bowl, you're selling out AAA, American Airlines Arena, but go back before all of that. How did you even get in United? How did you even come to this place? If you can just tell us a little bit about your story.
All right, well, we'll try and do it quickly. But I grew up in church. I'm a church kid.
Come on now.
Any other church kids? I'll take it one step further. I'm a pastor's kid. So I grew up in the church literally every day. And I don't know, I think I spent probably the best part of my younger years not knowing any different, and then my teenage years kind of just searching for an excuse to run for the hills and to kind of find a reason to kind of, I guess, justify my rebellion. Not that I ever rebelled properly, but I just, but the thing was, God, I never got one, and the more I questioned and the more I doubted God and church and all of those things, the more I fell in love with Jesus, and the more I fell in love with the calling, and so I think most of my story has been trying to find a reason why not, and not finding one. So just stepping into whatever the next thing is and watching how God continues just to work in that space, and so that's led us all the way to here, and I mean that. I never intended to lead worship. I never really intended to write songs or anything. I loved art when I was a kid. I wanted to be an architect when I was younger. I wanted to finish school and go and study architecture, and then I missed the grade. I only wanted to go to one school. I think maybe I was proud. There was only one school I wanted to go to, and I missed it by 0.2 of a point, and so I said, I'm not going to go to college at all. And so instead I was playing music at the time, and we were playing in a rock band. It was called Abel.
What was it called?
Abel.
Abel,
yes.
like the brother in the Bible, or like
no, A-B-L-E.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah, Willie and Abel.
Very deep.
There was nothing to it really. It was a terrible band name. But however, I'll say this: I think there was a part of me at that time that I felt like our church was making music, and there was like Darlene Check and all these people doing amazing stuff. I couldn't see where we fit into that as young people, and we had an incredible youth ministry which I loved. I'm grateful for it because it kept me. There were relationships that I had there that now I probably took for granted at the time, but I see now how that really steered my journey in a certain way, and just people who are still my best friends who I do life with now. But there was a part of me that probably felt like that for me to serve God in the way that I felt like was real for me, I couldn't do that within the church setting. And that was even within a church like Hillsong back then. And I'm grateful for leaders. There was a couple of people in my life, a guy called Phil Dooley, many of you would know. I remember him one time just saying to me, and I was like maybe 17 or 18, and just trying to figure out what to do. I wasn't going to go to college, and I had ideas. And he just said, hey, man, he goes, I wonder how long the best minds and the best talent, go to these big companies like Apple, or I don't know, whatever the big companies were back then, but you could now be like Red Bull or Apple or whoever it might be. And he goes, I pray for the day where the best minds, the best creativity, the best talent is committed to building the church. And I remember thinking, well, I'm not I haven't got the best talent and the best creativity and the best mind or all the rest of it, but I'm going to give the best that I've got to that end. And it was like this little moment that at the time didn't seem like a big deal, but now when I look back on it, it was like a real defining moment in my life, because it's almost like God's kept me to it. So every single time I felt like, man, I should go and do something different, or I should do something over here. It's just like this thing, I feel like God says to me, hey, why wouldn't you do that for kingdom purpose. And I can't say no to that. And so that's been the journey. And I think a lot of the people in our world, and I love that it's a collective. I love collaboration. I think that's one of the most powerful things that we have as church kids is this thing that we're all building something that's bigger than ourselves. And so for a lot of people out there, it's like, the idea is I'm going to make great music so that I can make a name for myself, so that I can be successful, or I'm going to make great art so that I can achieve something, or people find what I do significant. But I love that what we're doing is we get to do all of that, but we're committed to a higher cause and a greater name and something that's far bigger and wider. And I think that is far more satisfying than we ever kind of sometimes give it credit for.
Come on, it's so good. Like, when you were 18, 19, and you were starting to lead worship, did you ever see then, like, what you're doing now? Did you see, like, I'm going to lead worship in front of arenas and I'm going to sell out major stadiums?
No, not at all. Like I was saying, I was in a band, so we had these rock star dreams, and they were like, we attached, we had rock star dreams with a purpose. We were like, we're going to be rock stars, we're going to make tons of money, and we're going to give money to the poor. Like, that was kind of like we were genuine about it, but I think at the end of the day, we just wanted to be rock stars, and I was like really awkward and skinny and kind of, I just wanted girls to like me and all the normal stuff. So I think there was part of me that thought, when you put a guitar on and you feel awesome. And so we were in this band, and there was this band competition. It was like before there was American Idol or anything like that. And there was like 3,600 bands in Australia, and it was put on by what was called Channel V, which before we had MTV in Australia, we're almost a third world country. We had this single Channel V, and so every band in the country was in this thing, and we ended up winning it. And so it was this like big deal, and we're like, oh, this is our moment, and we're on TV and all this cool stuff. And then literally kind of all this stuff was falling into place, like all our wildest dreams falling into place. And then out of nowhere, it just kind of fell over. And I remember it was like I hadn't had a girlfriend at that point, but like breaking up in our band felt like a breakup. I was devastated, and I can see that you're all, you all care a lot, but it really did hurt. You put 6 years of your life into something, and you feel like everything's wrapped up in this thing, and you're finally there, and it's like it falls apart. And I remember going home. I actually cried all night. It was super weird, and I was like, "God, why?" And I just remember this scripture that I don't know where I remembered it, but it just came to mind. It's like, in a man's heart he plans his course, but the Lord determines his steps. It's Proverbs 16 verse 9, and it's such a simple scripture, but that thing has held me through so many different like storms and seasons and moments where I felt like I don't know which way to go or whatever else. And at that point, I didn't know what to do. I was like, I didn't go to college to do music. The music dream was happening, and then it kind of fell apart. And I just felt like God said, like, just do what's in your hand. And at the time, that was our youth music. It was our little band, which was pretty much the same guys anyway. It's just that we kind of broke up from the rock star dream and kind of just were like, well, let's just make great music for our church. And so we started doing that, and that became united, and that's basically what we've done ever since. And it just reminded me, like, for so many of us, I think we've all got dreams in our hearts, and there's things, we have this plan often where we think this is the way it's going to happen, and all right, step A, step B, step C, like, this is how I'm going to get from here to there. And life doesn't often work that way, and so often it feels like you're going a million miles in the wrong direction, or like something happens and you feel like, well, where's God in this? Like, what's happening? But the beauty of hindsight is that when you look back, you see how God takes all the ways we've gone, and he just has this way of lining it all up. Like, sometimes we can feel like our plan A is gone, and so we're over here on plan, Q, and all of a sudden, God has a way of, if you just keep walking, just bringing it round, and all of a sudden, it's a better story than it would have been had he done it your way anyway. And so I think there's so much to be seen in that, and I would just encourage anyone here who's, maybe you feel like you're distant from where you thought you'd wanted to be, or something's happened, it's thrown you off course in life. Like, I know maybe there's an athlete here, and you've got a debilitating injury, and you feel like, just trust God. Like, just trust God. In a man's heart, he plans his course, but the Lord determines his steps. So just keep walking and trust that God's going to line it up. And the beautiful thing about what God does is, when he brings it all together, it's far more powerful. It means more than it ever would had you done it on your own. You trust him more than you ever thought, more than you ever would had you done it on your own. And that's where all the beauty and value is in following God. So just keep going.
I think it was Steve Jobs who said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. And so as we look back, I think we can see the providence of God so many different times. I know this room tonight is full of lots of different creatives, a lot of people that express themselves in lots of different ways, whether that's painting, sculpting, singing, music, writing, lots of different creatives here tonight. Let's talk for a few moments if we can. Like, you've written so many songs, but not just songs. You've written so many good songs. And literally I wrote down a question today, like, how do you keep writing a good song? And like, can you let us into your process? Like, how do you, can you tell us some basics, some handles, like how you start to write a song? What does that look like?
I think there's probably a lot of bad songs involved that you probably haven't heard. And I think that's probably the key to it,
What's the worst song you ever wrote? We've all heard. The
first song I ever wrote was called Monkey Lies. It was about evolution.
Wow, that's not true.
I was 14. It's a true story. It was terrible.
Monkey Lies?
Yeah, Monkey Lies.
I like that.
Yeah, I was in a band called Consecrated at the time.
Bro, how many bands were you in?
A few.
Consecrated, able,
Inertia,
trustworthy.
Inertia.
Stop it.
Yeah.
That's not real.
Inertia.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. I won't go into the others. So yeah, no, I mean, I think there's just how do I say? I think there's just something about just doing it and doing it not for, we often do a lot of the things we do for a purpose, and I think, or a specific end, and I love that. Like, as in, nowadays, I get to write for something, even like, it might be, hey, write a Christmas song, so you have something you're writing for, or write for an album, or write for a project, or we have a platform now to write music. But I really fell in love with music because I hated, with writing music because I hated playing music, as in practicing music, I should say. My parents made me play piano when I was a kid. I despised it. And it was like the worst. It was like the bane of my existence was just like 30 minutes or 45 minutes a day. I had to do scales and play Frere Jacques or all these other songs. And I remember my piano teacher clicked onto it and he said, hey, this week your only job, you have one job, it's to write a song. And my mind was like, wait, you get to make stuff up. And that was I didn't get off the piano for the whole week. And I've said this a couple times here, but there's something about just the idea that there's 12 notes in front of you, and that those 12 notes contain infinite possibilities, like infinite melodies, infinite songs. And it just, to me, it helped me understand God. And so I think a lot of my personal journey was just seeing how God operates his mystery and the limitless nature of what he does in and through our limitation, or what might seem very small and insignificant. And I think that's like the beautiful thing about the church. It's the beautiful thing about each of our lives, because we can often just kind of look at ourselves and go, well, what can I do? Like, I'm not that great. And I know for me, my journey there's been so much self-doubt. I was so insecure as a young person. I really felt like I wasn't good enough to do any of the things that I've done or been a part of. And I think a lot of it is actually just dying to yourself and just going, I'm just not going to care what people think. And one of the big challenges as a pastor's kid too is when you do something as a pastor's kid, I kind of felt like everyone would be like, he's just doing that because he's the pastor's kid. And it's like the smallest thing, like it seems so stupid, but it was a massive deal to me, And so I just remember these moments, again, defining moments where it was like one time I just felt like God spoke to me and just said, hey, just walk in your own shoes. Just don't be afraid, just walk in your own shoes, And as simple as it was like at the time I was like wearing my dad's Jordans because they were like 4 sizes too big for me, but they were cool.
Had Jordans?
Yeah, because I was trying to impress people. He did, yeah.
Wow, that's
My dad was a pretty cool guy.
Yeah.
They were awesome too. And I remember like going to school, we had like a day, mufti day. I don't know if you have those where you can we wear uniforms to school in Australia.
Okay, yeah.
But I got to not wear a uniform, and so I went to my dad's cupboard because I wanted to impress all my friends. I wore my dad's shoes. And I got to school and they all just like, they paid me out like crazy because I looked like Ronald McDonald because I was way too big for me. And it just reminded me, like, there's just something about, just stop trying so hard to impress people. And when you walk in your own lane, just be yourself. It's amazing. One, just how much lighter and free you are. It takes all the striving out of it. But it just allows you to not be wavered whether people love what you do or don't love what you do. And it's a big part of it. But
I love that you're talking about the idea of just doing stuff. I think many times I talk with a lot of creatives, and a lot of people have a lot of good ideas, but they don't actually ever do those ideas. In fact, we say it like this: ideation without execution just leads to frustration. For you, that's one of the things I've been so impressed about your life as a friend of yours, but also someone who's, I think, following your lead, is just the ability to continue to create, continue to get up, go to work, and continue to put great content out, great art out. what keeps you motivated? How do you stay inspired? Because I love the idea of like just do it, but like I can maybe just do it like 2 days out of the week, and then I'm like, the other 5 I'm pretty tired. I feel like is there anything that you could share with us in terms of what motivates you, what inspires you to keep working the way that you do?
Well, I think for a lot of us, for me, a lot of it was just dissatisfaction. So it's this sense of, man, like things need to be better, or we can do it better, or we can present this better. I know with songs, I mean, there's so many great songs out there now. When we first started, it was like the music that people were singing at church was cool, but it wasn't what we were into. It wasn't what our friends at school were into. So we wanted to just basically try and write songs that our friends could connect with, and that's where it began. I think that's kind of been still a lot of the heartbeat now, is to write music that connects with people who are maybe on the margins, who would never maybe get into some of the more traditional stuff, or even to write lyrics or put kind of the story of God and Jesus into kind of a format that just helps people just kind of even open their eyes just a little bit, even if they don't get it all, just to kind of ask questions. I think we live in a culture, especially where people are always telling us what to think. Even in church, so much preaching is like, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, and your life will be awesome. And I think for any of us who've been around for more than 2 minutes, we know it's not that simple. Like, life is complicated. And Jesus was asked a ton of questions. He only answered like 2 or 3 directly. Most of the time, he just threw people off because he knew that. He knew that if he just gave a straight answer, people are in so much, like the diversity of where people are at, they're going to take it at face value and go and do crazy things. And I think the beauty of art and the beauty of music, and the reason I feel like God gives us this thing is because it enables us to kind of create something where it connects with people beyond their logic. It kind of connects with something deeper. And then good art should make people think, and it should make people kind of just start to ask questions themselves. Then when they ask questions themselves, I feel like they come to a truer revelation, because I feel like the Spirit speaks in that place where you're honest and you're like going, hey God, I don't know how to deal with this, or I don't know how to think about this certain circumstance. Like, that's prayer, And I feel like there's something really honest and beautiful about that kind of communion, where God speaks to us in a real way, and then it becomes conviction, and then you're like, that to me is more important than like giving people A, B, C, D, F, G. Yeah. So
I think you say something that's really powerful, that the idea of, what's frustrating you right now? And that's actually a question that everyone here should answer, because I think many times immaturity says, when I get frustrated, I go and complain about it. I think maturity says, instead of complaining about it, I'm going to go and create something new because of it. And I think that's a lot of what you're saying that you've done, is that going, hey, we might not be the best, but we can do better than that. And that thing, I'm tired of complaining about that. Let's go and create something instead of that.
The danger is, especially for artists, and especially in church, is for us to keep thinking that we have to one-up ourselves. So like, man, like last year was amazing, or this song was great, or that album was great, or last Sunday was fantastic, so this Sunday we have to make it bigger and better. And it's fine. Like, I think there's merit in that. I actually believe that God honors that because of the heart behind it, that we just want to keep making things better. But I think the real challenge for us is to dig deeper and wider. And what I mean by that is for us to like be chasing like deeper foundations in what we do, like whether it be going deeper in the Word, whether it be like deeper in our own revelation, or deeper into like the real issues within the fabric of society and what people are struggling with. And because God is at the end of every single one of those questions. And I feel like if we're willing to go there, like, it's like roots. I mean, it's a classic thing, but if you dig your roots down deep, then I feel like the tree is stronger and the branches spread wider and the fruit is better. And so I think if we can think that way, because I feel the challenge often to be like, all right, well, how are we going to make a better album than that? Or how's the tour going to be better than the last one? Or how, and honestly, it leads to this place of striving, and I think it's for all the wrong reasons. Is it because we're trying to impress people or impress God, or trying to be better than something else? Or is it we're trying to be like, compete with the stuff that we're seeing, maybe in the world that is like blowing everyone's minds with like a millionth of the resource? And I think there's a power to that, and we'll keep doing it. But the real challenge personally is to actually be digging deep, and to making sure that our net is wide, that our arms are spread wide, that we're not just kind of like going, hey, let's just feed this like, minimal kind of, there's our audience. Like, I know for me with United, it'd be so easy to give the people what they want. Really, really easy, to be honest. And sometimes it's tempting because it can be a battle, like finding that new thing. And I've just always felt like I guess as a personal conviction that I'm just not going to, I'll die trying to find something new that's going to mean something to someone who's on the margins more than settle for just kind of, I guess it's feeding the sheep that are right here, you know? And I know we've got to feed the sheep, and so that's part of the challenge, but we also got to chase the one. And I think you know, all of us are called to that, and there's a time where it's like we got to focus on the main thing, but there's also a time where we have to be prepared to like leave everything behind, even lose everything if need be, to chase the one. And it defies logic. It doesn't make sense, but the gospel doesn't. The way of Jesus never makes sense. Like, why would you leave 99 to chase the one, you know? Like, think about it. Would you leave everything behind, everything that you've built, that you've made, that matters to you, to go and chase the one thing that God calls you to do? And I think that's a real question for us. And I think that if we're willing to do it, God doesn't take this away. He continues to bless that in his own strength, but he helps us to keep stretching out wider so that more might come. And I think with music, with art, I think the challenge for us, you know, for artists here, like, we have something to say. I love that so much. There's so much. I'm guilty as well, like you. I've been ashamed for a long time, you know, of being a church kid. And I think there's a time for us now where it's like, you know, who cares? Like, let's reclaim again these very things that it's the best message in the world. We have the best story to tell in the world. Yeah. So let's reclaim it. Like, let's not be ashamed of it. Let's be willing to kind of take risks, to speak, to prophesy, you know, to be able to, that's what we are. The artists, your prophets, and the world needs it. There's a million people saying all kinds of things out there, and the last thing we need is a church just saying the same stuff that we've always said because we're trying to preserve the past. We need people who are going to speak out into that new thing and carve new territory. And, you know, I spoke, for those of you who are on Sunday, I spoke about the transfiguration. The first thing that happens after that, after this moment where Jesus reveals himself, is they come across a little boy who's been possessed. He's possessed by a spirit, and he's mute. And I just heard this thing that sometimes I guess like the spirit of this world will cause the church to be quiet, to close our mouth and to be mute. And so I think we have to be prepared to like rage against that. Don't conform to the patterns of this world, but be prepared to like rid ourselves of that, but be willing to speak. And it comes with a cost. So, you know.
I think for me on my journey, after I really like settled in my heart, I'm following Jesus. That was never really, I think I always believed in Jesus, but when it really awakened in me, I think the next step was understanding my calling. And I felt probably at 17, 18 years of age, really called into full-time ministry to preach the gospel. But the thing that I struggled with so long was that I couldn't really find a model. I couldn't find somebody that was like, I want to be like that guy. And I'm not saying that there wasn't great people or great examples. I just, when I would see guys, I go, that doesn't really line up. That's not really what I look like or how I would do it. And I remember I got this word when I was probably, 19 or 20, and it was a prophecy over my life that you're gonna really preach and you're gonna lead in a different way, and you need to do it in your own unique way. And that was like a really like kind of cool confirming moment for me. Like, all right, cool, I'm gonna be me. I'm gonna try to fully be authentic to me. Yet I just remember so many times like growing up, like, hey, don't let fear stop you. Hey, like, you know, let's pray to have influence to kings, to presidents, all these kind of prayers. I never ever dreamed that fear was going to arise or criticism would arise to try to stop me, not from the world, but really from inside the camp of believers. And I think a big challenge for me on my journey of discovering my calling is going, how do I continue to step out in authenticity of what God's called me to do? I mean, I don't know what we're doing right now, but this is all part of that. But I think for you, like, how have you dealt with the criticism? How have you dealt with the fear aspect of, I remember even when you came out with, what I think it was Zion. Was Zion the first record that you went back into the studio with, or Aftermath? So that was a studio record. I remember having talks and just, oh man, like this is like a studio record. And I remember you said this beautiful, beautiful thing to me. You said, I want to make a record that kids on the subway home can put on their ears and worship God to. And it was so different because everything else we had seen before that was a live setting and a worship atmosphere, but you were thinking in an unconventional way that before it came out, there was some criticism or questions. How have you broken through those boxes, or how do you practically break through those boxes in your life? Because I'm trying to figure out if you could counsel me for a moment.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that whatever we do, like there has to be something that motivates us. Like, as in, so for the easiest thing for me, again, when it comes to a record or a project, is I think about individuals. So like, when we do a tour, I literally imagine maybe a friend of mine who I want to come to that tour, who has never been into a church environment. How do we connect to that person? Or I think about someone who's been like kind of in church their entire lives, and they're just drained, and they're crushed, and they're tired, and they're weary, and they're giving this thing a shot. And how do they come and feel refreshed and experience, peace in that place and a Jesus that they probably believe in deep down, but they're not seeing in their world around them. So like, think of literal individuals, and it motivates you. And I feel like the call of God that's how it works for me. So like, I don't know how the call of God works for other people, and there's probably a lot of people who are like, I'm waiting for God's call, but I think God calls us to individuals, He very rarely calls us to the crowds or to the multitudes. It's to the ones, and so I think if you think about that for you, it could be a friend, it could be someone you know, it could be even yourself. Like, if you think about specific people, it's amazing how God is able to take the story that you're telling to that one person and make it just so much wider than we could ever do. Again, it comes back to that like infinite possibilities through like a limited thing. And so I always get like with Aftermath, it was a season we were in, a lot of us were doing the live worship albums, and rather than trying to do two things that compete with each other, it was like, look, this opportunity we have United in this season. We started out as a youth band. Now we've traveled around the world, we've done all this stuff. In this next season, I really saw the Aftermath, Zion, and Empires as kind of a three-tier project, a bit of a journey. It was like, all right, let's just go on a journey where we're just trying to create music for the people who would never buy Christian music, but want it and need it and want something to listen to, or something that helps them in their own walk with God. Even if it meant that less people were going to buy it, or less people were going to come to the shows, it was like, that's what we felt called to do. And I don't know, we're like in this process again, so it's really interesting talking and thinking about it, because we're starting to work on this next season. I don't know what it looks like yet, but there's these like little stirrings and these inklings, and it's like, it's so counterintuitive, I guess, to probably what we should do to jump on the momentum. Even that people are saying you should do this and you should do A, B, C, D, and I'm going, I've got this feeling that we should do this other thing, and it's terrifying. But it's actually it motivates me more than anything else. And you quickly learn that the joy in what we do is not in the success, it's not in the big moments. Like when all this is done, like, and when I look back at the journey that we've had, I don't remember like the American Airlines arena moments. Like, I don't remember, like, even I saw that on video, the video of that, because we filmed here that time. I was watching it, I was like, God, I don't remember any of that. Like, what we remember is, I just remember these like little moments, often building relationships within our own team, like conversations at 5 a.m. on the bus about the real things in life and doing the journey. And I remember, like, I think about, the moments where you're spending hours at 4 a.m. because no one's done art, and so we're actually creating art. This reminds me of us doing art for one of our projects years and years ago. But like, the graphic designer kind of got sick and didn't finish it, wherever. So we're just like, well, let's just paint a wall and film it, and that'll be the front cover. And it was just, they're my favorite moments, because it's like, it's not what people think, it's the journey and it's the process. And I think we have to be okay with the process. And anyone who's an artist or a songwriter, or process is everything. And when that is, when you treasure that more than the end result, like, one, it takes all the pressure off whether or not that's great or not, but you just get to allow, I think, God to work on you the whole time through. Yeah.
You wrote a little song called Oceans, and a whole lot of us liked it a lot. Maybe you can just tell us briefly the story behind the song, but when you wrote it, what I've always, like, did you know it was going to be the biggest song ever?
No. It's a cool story. So with Zion, it was the first song we wrote, and it was the last song we finished. So the first thing we did on that trip was Michael Guy Chislett, who is my old time friend, was in my band Able way back in the day. He now produces the albums with us, and Matt Crocker, who I wrote the song with. We were in my apartment. My wife was away for a week, and so we just kind of cleared out all the furniture and just set up a little recording studio. And I remember it was May Day, because there was this giant parade, Occupy Wall Street parade, kind of rolling down Broadway, and I lived above Broadway at the time. And so we were just writing, just throwing down ideas, and every idea was a good idea. Like nothing was a bad idea. Just recording ideas, and that's kind of how we started. That's what we've been doing now for this next thing. It's just like anytime you got a melody, just record it. Just we'll give it a name, and it just sits in a file. And one of them we came up with, and it was the chorus of what became Oceans. So that was the first thing we actually had for the whole project. But we knew it needed a B section. We had the verse and the chorus. We knew it needed a bridge or something. And so then we worked on the album for about 11 months. And, we had all these other songs. And Mikey kept kind of bringing that up. He's like, there's something about this. I'm like, yeah, it's great. And then one night we were recording. It was really late. And it was actually, I won't go into it. Matt and I just kind of broke off from dinner where we were having dinner. We went back to this little studio thing. It was like a shed. It was disgusting. It had more rats in it than it had musical equipment. But it worked for us, and it was so hot. It was hotter than this. And Matt sat down, and he just started playing. He started playing the chord progression and just singing that melody. I won't sing it now. Spirit Lead Me part.
We would love for you to sing.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. No, you wouldn't. No. Spirit. So and I was like, bro, that's beautiful, but it was like so much slower than anything we had, and we just thought it was a separate song. And then we were like, maybe it will fit onto that Oceans song. We called it Oceans because its working title was Oceans from the get-go. And it was in a girl key. For whatever reason, it was super, super high, even for Maddie. And we just recorded it that night, and then we forgot it. And so fast forward another 4 months, and we were literally finishing the album. We were about 4 weeks past our deadline, and I went to Australia to just kind of wrap it all up. And we were trying to write like an upbeat song because we didn't really have one on the record, and we're trying so hard. And then Mike's going, we need to finish this song, like the Ocean song. Have you got lyrics? Like, we don't have lyrics for it. And we looked at all these lyrics, and honestly, they're the worst lyrics you've ever heard. It was all about oceans. It was like oceans of grace and oceans of mercy, and your love is an ocean type thing. And I'm like, I don't know, man, I'm not feeling any of this really, and we haven't got anyone to sing it. And then that night we went to church, and after church, Young and Free got up. It was the first time they ever played at church. It was like their big coming out kind of party. And there was this girl up there, and she was just jumping around like crazy, and she didn't sing a thing. She just had this presence about her. And I was with Brooke Lidgerwood, and I was like, who's this girl? Like, she's just got an amazing presence. She goes, her name's Taya, and she's got an incredible voice. I'm like, she can sing. And she's like, yeah. And I go, how long has she been around? She's been around for a few years. She like serves with like young people in our downtown campus. I'm like, all right, great. So I just asked her to come into the studio the next day. She rolled in on a skateboard, and we had her sing some BVs, and turns out she could sing. And so then we said, okay, can you come back tomorrow, and we'll have more for you to do. And we're like, we'll finish the lyrics to the song. She like the 24 hours went so fast, and next thing you know, she skateboarded into the studio again. And then I was like, we haven't worked on these lyrics, and it's like, this is the last day. Like it's over. And I was like, can you just give us like half an hour? And so I grabbed Maddie and we went for a walk. We tried to find some peaceful place. All we could find was it was like a drain pipe with like just basically sewage and all kind of stuff going on. I want to say it was beautiful, but it wasn't. But I said, we're not leaving here till we finish this song. And so we sat there, and I'm looking at these awful lyrics, and he said, our friend Solomon, who's an amazing artist, Solomon Lighthelm, some of you know, he makes movies and stuff, and Matt said that he had mentioned to him, why don't you write the song about stepping out of the boat, like Oceans of Faith? And it was like, Poof. And literally I wrote it on my phone, but as fast as I could type, the lyrics came. So from the first lyric to the last one. And it was like, it got to the end, and then I'm reading them to Matt, and he's still kind of throwing ideas out there. I'm like, Matt, I think we got it, buddy. And he's like, going through, he's like, Spirit, where my trust is without borders, what does that even mean? I'm like, I don't know, but I think I get it. Like, I get it, I can explain it. So we basically walked straight back up. Taya sung it. She sung it 3 times, and that was it. And I don't think I remember when she was singing it, like I was kind of like, oh man, this is something special here, but it hadn't all sunk in yet. And then when we finished the record, I remember that would be the song I'd play to people. I remember you guys coming over to our apartment. I think you were like some of the first people we ever played it to, and you're like, just show us one song. And I remember playing that song with Dawn Cherie, and we kind of sat there then and listened to the whole record. But again, that song kind of defines so much of the process because, so much of it came so easily. And then at the end, it came so easily too. But in the middle, it was just like a battle. And we didn't have a girl. One of the problems with that song is we didn't have a girl to sing it. So at the time, Brooke was off doing Brooke Fraser stuff. Annie had sung with us before. She had 3 kids and she just wasn't able to travel or do anything anymore. And there was a few other girls that we were like kind of a part of what we do, but for different reasons couldn't really commit to the whole journey. And then Taya just came out of nowhere and just an incredible gift. Like God had lined her story up and our story up to that moment. And it was just like a seal. Again, when we went into that project, like I prayed a prayer. I said, like, God, I don't want to do this if you're not in it anymore. Like I just don't. It's too much. Like there's other things we can do. We could do like church kids all over the world. Like this, like there's other stuff that I'm passionate about that I'd love to do. And so, you go through this giant process and you don't know where a song's going to come from. There's all this pressure. People telling us we have to come with like a radio single, and like Christian radio singles are the worst. Not if anyone writes them here, like they're not the worst. It's just, it's uninspiring in some respects. And so they're telling us, you have to write a song that's like this. And I'm like, that's not what we're going to do. I don't want to write that song. And so it was amazing because the way that song came together, it just felt like God just breathed on us when it was done. And it was like, okay, yeah, God, you're still in this. And then obviously that song went on to be what it was, but it also, it was like our first and only like #1 radio song. It like kind of did far more than we ever imagined. And one of our prayers was that God would take this record where we've never been before. Yeah. And I think one of the things I love, it's just one of those, it's not really a stat, but that song has made it into like literally thousands of playlists, especially on Spotify and elsewhere, that are not Christian. And it's like the little song that could kind of, and it's just like, it's a cool story. Yeah.
Well, I think I speak for everyone when we say thank you so much for writing it, because it's helped a whole lot of us. How many of y'all love that song, Oceans? It's amazing.
It's so hot up
Hey,
here.
we just have just a few more moments, and I wanted to ask you a question. In a moment, we're going to have we got a wonderful kind of after party night hanging out, but there's a lot of people, and I just kind of wonder where you kind of fall on this side of the coin. There's a lot of people that would say art is dead, or there's nothing new happening. It's just all a recreation. There's nothing to kind of push for. Where would you kind of land in terms of this idea? What do you think about art from the church, from creatives? Do you think there's great stuff still happening? What would kind of be your take on all that?
I mean, well, I don't agree with that at all. I think that, I tell you what, I think that the church used to be so famous for its art, and it has for generations. And the beautiful thing about art is, even going way back, and music, like before people could write stuff down, people told stories through songs. Even today, like the best way you can memorize something is to sing a story. And we've got a story to tell, right? Like that's everything. We have the story to tell. And we have to get good at telling stories again. Like even Jesus, he told stories when he tried to teach people. I think art is storytelling, and he's called us to be storytellers. And it's really simple. We don't have to elaborate. We don't have to make stuff up. We can tell the truth, but in telling the truth, there's so much a creativity we can attach to that. And I think what I love about art is it's subversive. What I love about art is I think sometimes we can be a bit guilty of being too on the nose, like just trying to be too obvious, or trying to say too much, or trying, not to say anything at all. And I think we have something to say, and we've got to be bold enough just to say it, and to be unashamed, like we said, but to do it in a way that is subversive, wise as serpents, harmless as doves, like just putting stuff out there, and just doing it not from an agenda that is like, look at me, look at me, look at my art, but like just trying to get a story out, because much of what we, there's just something to beauty, truth, and goodness, and those things representing God, that when we look around, even like these streets, and I said this on Sunday in one of the services, but like art has the power to gentrify an entire neighborhood, an entire city, an entire place. And so when we understand that God has given us art and music and storytelling and all the different stuff in order to help reveal the mystery of who he is in a way that's beautiful to the world around us, like to me that's so empowering. And we just have to, we have to embrace it again. I feel like we have to, again, reclaim this thing that the best art, the best stuff is coming out of the church. And it's bold, and it's not trying to tiptoe around or trying to be too cool or anything. It's just like, hey, this is what we've got to say. And this is what I believe in, and this is what it looks like. And what I love about you guys, Richie and DC and others is, I feel like as leaders, we have to incubate that. Like, one of the things I was most, I said before I was dissatisfied. That's what kind of motivated me to do stuff. But because I was so frustrated that ministry looked like preaching or worship leading or, these few different things. I'm like I just feel like we're all called to be ministers of the gospel. And that God gives us gifts, He gives us talents to use those things wherever we find ourselves. And, Carl talks about it like occupy all streets, and I love that. But whatever sphere you're in, you're there for a reason. You're there to be a witness. And the whole premise of being a witness is pointing to the source, the source of the light. And it's really easy. It means, here I am, look at that, And that's what art does, it's what music does. We have to tell that story. And I told this story on Sunday night, but Joe, who's my friend here, who's an incredible artist, and he has a show tomorrow night. Yes. Where is it? What?
Compass on Lincoln Road.
Compass on Lincoln Road, if you want to go. Joe's doing photography stuff there. It's going to be amazing, so that'll be awesome. But Joe and I were walking through Brooklyn, Williamsburg, Brooklyn, about 3 or 4 years ago. And about 7 or 8 years ago, Brooklyn reminded me so much of Wynwood here. And we were walking along, and there was this old apartment building, and up the top, someone had kind of reached out the window and written spray painted, "Artists still live here." And we were like, look at that, that's so funny. And we were just talking about the fact that all the artists are getting kicked out of the neighbourhood because all the property prices are going up and they can't afford to live there anymore. And Joe just said, well, art's not dead, it's just moved to a cheaper neighbourhood. And it was true. All the artists have moved from there to Bushwick, and it just reminded me that one of the best friends to our art is actually lack. It's not having everything, It's and sometimes we can often go oh man, if I had this, or if I had that, then I could achieve the things or do the things that I want to do, or I could make the art I want to do, or we could build the church that we want to build. And so much of what God is about is trusting in Him and using what's in your hand. And so I think if you understand that not having what you need, or not being qualified, or not having the name, or not having the platform, or the people investing in you, can actually be the best friend to the art that's in you coming out. And so if I could encourage you in anything, it's just make it, just get it out. And I love reading the stories of these great artists, but you go back to where they began, and all of them, they just did it for the love of it, just bit by bit, piece by piece. And it's amazing because you put a song out there. The beauty of a song is, it could be something that you write in your room and no one ever hears it. But once that thing's recorded, or once that thing has a life, or you play it for a friend, a song can travel further and quicker than any of us could. And I heard this guy called Fran Healy, who I loved. He was in a band called Travis way back in the day. And one time I went and saw a show of his, and afterwards we broke into their little after party, and it was really cool. We were 17 or 18 at the time. So we're hanging out with these guys, and then they got awarded this platinum award or something, and we're just hanging out. And I remember him saying, hey, songs are like stars, And the beautiful thing is you write a song and you cast it up there amongst all the millions of other songs that are out there in the world. And that thing will shine forever, whether or not people notice it or not. And he goes, but sometimes you look up in the sky and you might notice the star and you might not. But the beautiful thing is you're putting it there for everybody to enjoy. And I just never have forgotten that. Just get the art out, because it has a way of traveling further than we could, and speaking to people in ways that we couldn't with our words and with our minds. So just trust yourself, trust God, and see what happens.
Come on, let's give Joel a big round of applause. I think on behalf of everyone here, Joel, and so many people, all of our sessions are going onto the podcast, and so many other people are going to be listening to these talks and these conversations. But I want to say just a big, huge thank you to you. And I really mean it, because I just think I think you're such a gift to the body of Christ, but you're really a gift to the world. I think your tenacity and your perseverance to continue to create, it impacts me. I love how you're talking about the fact that your music can travel. And I said it on Sunday, but I don't think I've ever written a sermon without your voice, one of your songs playing in the background. I know there's a lot of people right here too that would say that, your songs have been the soundtrack to their faith. And so we're really grateful for you, and we hope that you continue to create, because we really need you. Come on, how many of y'all would say we need Joel? We love you.